Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Home and Away, a podcast devoted to all things in and around the world of sporting Kansas City soccer. I am Drew Vanderploeg, joined once again, as always, by my good friend Cody Welton. This week on the podcast, MLS After Dark was in full form late Saturday night, and Sporting Kansas City was a prime protagonist as they won a wild 5-3 game in San Jose, bouncing back from a frustrating defeat the prior weekend at home versus Portland. Daniel Salloi earned MLS Player of the Matchday honors, bagging 2 goals and 2 assists, and narrowly missing his first career professional hat trick. It was yet another game under the direction of interim coach Kerry Zavagnin, where we saw Sporting Kansas City be more dynamic and effective in their attack, getting their new DP number 10 Manu Garcia in advantageous spaces and giving him the opportunity to let his vision and touch create multiple chances for Sporting Kansas City to score. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, though, as San Jose piled on tons of pressure in return most of the game, and there were still some familiar issues defensively, both on set pieces as well as closing down space in their own defensive third. That said, everyone that listens to this podcast or follows this team closely is aware of these defensive deficiencies, and that for Sporting Kansas City to win games with any level of regularity, they will need to continue to be aggressive on the attacking half of the field to compensate. Tactical Corner this week will be focused on some things we think Sporting Kansas City can work on that are not necessarily talent dependent, easy for me to say, at least in technical skill. There will be some simple things regarding their rest defensive posture as well as their line management that can be rectified with better organization and coordination, and they could at least limit the amount of negative events they are attempting to recover from. This week in Potpourri, MLS Hot Stove is scorching as we record this podcast, with the MLS primary transfer window closing at midnight tonight. And Sporting Kansas City has been a key figure in the goings-on over the last 48 hours, both bringing in a new player and saying goodbye to a fan favorite. Speaking of fan favorites, the Kansas City Current has pushed their unbeaten start to the season to 5 games this past weekend, and their shutout streak to over 400 minutes as they continue to outclass every opponent they come across. Finally, we'll preview Sporting Kansas City's early afternoon away trip to Cincinnati, and discuss whether we think they can keep this level of attacking performance clicking and potentially make it a 3rd win in 4 matches of the Kerry Zavagnin era. Cody, it was a pretty chaotic affair in San Jose Saturday night, but at least it kept us invigorated, as most of us were up well past our bedtimes, given the West Coast start time. San Jose were as advertised, a very dangerous attacking team that can put their opponent on the back foot defensively quite a bit, but also pretty buns defensively themselves. The first 15 minutes or so seemed like Sporting Kansas City were sort of holding on for their lives, but that they did hold on through that initial barrage is probably a key reason why they ended up coming away with a victory. So what did you take away from the game at large, and especially how that first portion of the game went, where it candidly looked like they might get run off the pitch?
I mean, I think my takeaway from the game is that it's more entertaining to watch soccer when goals are being scored than it is otherwise. I mean, you're right. It was really a fun game to watch, and even though the team gave up some goals, and even though it was kind of nervy, like you said at the beginning, the team really seemed to be resilient and to be focused on trying to score moving forward, and they were rewarded for it. And I think that's a really big confidence booster for the team. It's got to be. Manu was great. Daniel Salloi was absolutely electric. I think just about every player who was able to stay on the field for most of the game had I think a worthwhile showing, and I think it's something to build upon, right? Like maybe not so much defensively, but that's okay. I mean, the fact is, and we've gone over this so many times, like this team is not going to be a good defensive team with the players currently on the roster. They're just not, and so embrace the chaos and have fun with it and build on the attack. And I think that's what we're seeing, and it definitely makes for a lot more enjoyable viewing.
Couldn't said it better myself. We know this team is what it is defensively. I think we're going to discuss maybe a couple things they can do organizationally and structurally while still maintaining what they're doing offensively that may help just mitigate some of these situations. But yeah, I mean, they're not all of a sudden going to become a good defensive team this year. They need to replace or add 5 or 6 people on the back line and at the D mid position if they were going to try to do that, right? As much as I'm warmed by Jacob Bartlett's ability to step in as a 19-year-old kid and just jump into being a 90-minute player on an MLS team, he's not a top D mid in this league. I don't think any of us would suggest that he is. Jansen Miller, for all of the positives that we see from him, still makes rookie mistakes. He made some in this game. So there are limitations. That does not mean that the team can't try to score goals. And I think that that's the biggest difference that we've seen over the last several games is just like a thought process that you and I had floated before Peter Vermes left, which was, fuck it. Right. Try to score. Like, you're not going to shut out teams.
Yep.
So why not just try to score more than them? It's a significantly more entertaining way to go about it, unless you're Tottenham Hotspur. But for Sporting, like
I mean, it might have worked, right? If it wasn't for all the injuries for that team,
yeah, for sure.
But it didn't work. And,
it didn't work.
That's okay.
And I think the aspirations of Tottenham Hotspur are more than more than just putting on a good show and making the playoffs, right? Sure. Like they have aspirations of competing for European trophies and things like that. So it's a different comparison.
Even that is a good way of thinking about it, because I mean, would you rather go out playing Ange ball, or would you rather go out playing Nuno ball or playing Mourinho ball? Like
I fucking hate watching Nottingham Forest, man. Right? I hate it.
I don't, because
more power to them for getting. I mean, and they beat Tottenham. More power to them for getting results. But they are one of the highest overperforming XGD teams in Premier League history. This is not repeatable. This is them getting very lucky and having exactly the right players to sort of pull off what they're doing.
So that's what I like about is watching the players who are fit perfectly into their roles. Like, their center back pairing is like, I just love watching those two guys play. And obviously you've got like Morgan Gibbs White, but like those players are not going to be there next year, right? So many of them.
Well, and Chris Wood is a perfect target forward for them to loop crosses into. Like, they just have it. Like, everything about how they're set up is. And like I said, I have respect for what they're doing.
Right.
Like, as far as the results are concerned, I would not want to sit down and watch it every day. Like, right. and I think that's the point that you're making is, like, this team is not all of a sudden going to be a top 4 team in the conference.
Nope.
As much as they have aspirations of that, realistically, we understand that's not what they're going to be. So why not at least give the fans something fun to enjoy?
And
even if
the
they
players something fun too. Like, players,
no shit.
Man, players don't like playing without the ball and just trying to scrape out 1-0 victories or 0-0 draws. Like, players don't like that shit. Players want to attack and score goals because that's what's fun. And so the vibe shift is so it's just palpable, and I'm totally here for it,
Yeah.
And I would much rather win games 5-2, right? If that's what it takes.
For sure. So that I discussed that early pressure. I mean, San Jose was pouring it on early in this game. They almost got a good shot in the 3rd minute, but it sort of got deflected and bumbled and whatever, and Polskat picked it up. And then there were a number of opportunities where they almost got good shots off. They didn't really pull them off, but they almost got good shots off. And there's a lot of last minute defending and sort of stepping into passing lanes and whatnot. And then there was the whole situation where Manu Garcia and Jacob Bartlett ran into each other in midfield. And I mean, you should have heard me yell at the TV when I was like, I mean, it was a pretty loud, oh, what the fuck, when I saw it happen. Because as soon as they ran into each other, I was like, oh no. And sure enough, it's San Jose running downhill with 5 guys against 3 defenders, and you're just
Yep.
like, what the hell? And Pulskamp comes up with a huge save on Espinoza, and it was like right at that moment. And I think Mike Kuhn mentioned it on the Discord at the time when we were watching the game. And this is your weekly reminder to join the Discord, participate in the conversation. We've got a pretty good group of folks over there. Link is in the show notes. But we have a channel in there where we react to the game live while we're watching it. And I think Mike had mentioned, it sort of feels like it's not an if San Jose will score, but when. Mm-hmm. And it certainly felt that way. But I said to him at the time, I was like, I also remember a number of Sporting Kansas City games when they've been trying to get themselves out of this, like out of these sort of bad situations over the last couple of years, where they would really attack hard for 20 minutes. Never quite get the goal across the line, and then sort of
run
out of gas.
Yep.
Yeah, run out of gas and get frustrated and get in their heads, and then they wouldn't be able to score. And sure enough, Pulskamp makes that save, and things did start to settle a little bit after that. And then, of course, you get the whole combination play with Salloi sort of inverting on the ball and getting that. And Joveljic makes a really good touch here to set up, to get the ball settled and then get Ndenbe in space. It's a very difficult touch kind of off the side of his boot to be able to, like, Salloi can only pass this ball into one spot, right? Mm-hmm. But Joveljic does a really good job of settling it and then playing Ndenbe into space. And the one thing, and I think maybe Robert Russert mentioned this on Shades of Blue, but the thing that I think is really important, even though Joveljic, he gets the assist on this, obviously, but even though he's not on the score sheet in a 5-goal game, he drags the center backs back he drags his run back. So he hits the ball, he starts to run forward, drags back into the cutback zone. The center backs have to follow him. He's actually open. Like, Ndenbe could have passed it to him there, and I'm sure he would have slammed it home if he did. But we know Ndenbe is not passing. That's not happening. And he just lasers it, and thankfully Earl Edwards Jr. is a shitty goalkeeper, and it just goes right by. I mean, this is the kind of shot that got A.D. Franch fired from being the goalkeeper of the Current, honestly. But he, laces it, goes into the back of the net, and all of a sudden we're cooking.
Yep.
And it was so nice to see so many attacking players inside. I think I texted you at the time. There were 4 players in the box. They were all, and defenders have to pay attention to all those players because they're all dangerous. And all of a sudden, that's how Logan can just dribble up and take a lash, because they can't close on him, because if they close on him, Dejan Joveljic has got to fucking tap in.
Yep, absolutely.
So, like, those are the kind of movements that we've just been waiting for, and we're just finally starting to see over the last few games.
I couldn't agree more. I think that anytime your left back or your right back, for that matter, they get in the box, they they have license to shoot. If they're willing to do that work, to get in the box, and then oftentimes having to track back or whatever, they should feel like they have license to shoot, and Ndenbe did, and it was a great shot. It was a poor goalkeeping, as you mentioned, for sure, but that's okay, because we've been on the opposite end of that, especially at the beginning of this season, and we weren't
right.
We weren't on Saturday, and it feels good, and we should enjoy that feeling.
I mean, so this started sort of a 6-minute period where all of a sudden Sporting is just scoring goals for fun. And you're kind of like, I remember being at the end of this just going, what is happening? Yeah. Like, what is going on right now? Pulskamp gets the assist on the long ball, which we've been saying. I said it in the Discord at the time. I was like, I told y'all, when they get a long free kick from just inside the half, bring Pulskamp up there and let him smash it. Mm-hmm. What did he do? Gets an assist. I mean, this is something he is good at. Yeah. Use it to your advantage. Get more players forward. Let your goalie take that free kick, and they did. And Salloi makes an unbelievable touch to settle this.
Absolutely.
And then just laces it with his left foot, by the way. And it's just like, these are not what we would consider to be high quality shots as far as like in the XG model.
Right.
But they were high quality performances. by the players executing in those circumstances. And this was just the first of like 8 more times that Rodriguez gets absolutely roasted by Salloi. Now, he has his positive. He did some things to Sporting in possession that I did not enjoy very much, and we'll get to that here in a second. But that dude is not going to want to see Daniel Salloi anytime soon.
No, and it's kind of funny because both of these teams attack down that side of the field, right? So New England. Holy crap! I almost went OG Bruce.
I mean, it's a lot of New England players.
It really
they got more coming.
So they attack through Christian Espinosa down the right side. We know how left-handed Sporting's attack can often be, and so it seems like it was always going to be like those two things clashing against one another, and Sporting got the better of it.
Well, that's a good point that you made, is that because they attack so heavily up that side, and Christian Espinosa is such an important part of that attack, and he's not really a wingback, let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
Like he is a winger playing wingback.
Right.
Shallowy's going to have all of that time and space, and he's going to be matched up against Rodriguez the whole match, right? And I think that is a poor matchup for San Jose. I think it's going to be a different conversation against Miles Robinson this weekend, right?
Absolutely.
And so we'll get to that when we do the preview, but it's just a bad matchup for San Jose because Rodriguez is like effectively he's right-footed Brazilian Fontas.
Yeah.
He's you know what I mean? Like he's just not a guy who's tracking runs that well. He's a plus possession center back that like provides value in attack with the ball. Not really a good defensive center back tracking runs. He's really good in the air on attacking set pieces. There's like a bunch of things that he's useful at. It's just kind of weird that we end up with these in MLS where we have all these center backs that can't defend. But it is a thing for whatever reason. And he was just terrible in this game defensively.
Yeah.
And Salloi just feasted on it. And the other part that I think you highlighted is, I would say the first 20 minutes of this game, maybe 25 minutes of this game, were played on that half of the field. When I say half, the vertical half, so like the opposite side of the camera, Sporting's left side, San Jose's right side, the ball almost stayed there for 20 plus minutes.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know if I texted you or if I texted Chad Reynolds this, but I was like, I was watching it because Manu Garcia was actually playing as a right midfielder in this one. Radia was on the left. Manu was on the right. And he and Shoppy were just kind of hanging out over there a lot of the time. And I was like, I'm just waiting. They're setting this up. They're setting up this switch that is going to have those guys in space. And sure enough, and we know Radia is good at hitting this switch. And he did. He hit that switch, and it was on at that point. And you see Shoppy, and now Shoppy's in space dribbling. He's not dribbling into a wall, as we've said before. He's in space dribbling. And you see Manu point to exactly the spot where he wants him to pass the fucking ball because he can already read the space. And this is a thing about Manu that I think gets overlooked a lot about his play. He is not a traditional 10 by any means, right? Like he is a 4-3-3 10. Quote unquote 10, right? He's much more of a, Dominic Soboslai, Alexis McAllister kind of 10. He is not a Lucho Acosta, Evander type of 10. That is not his thing. And so, but what he is exceptionally good at is reading space, anticipating where the space will be. And he does this here. You see him as soon as Shoppy starts driving, he makes that sort of run from the half channel into the central area. And point to the spot, and all Shoppy's got to do is slide it between them. He just pulls the defenders up, slides it between them, boom, goal. And you immediately see what this team can be when these pieces start clicking together.
I think that Manu playing on the right and Radia playing as the left-sided 8. I think that was an unexpected tweak for me. But I think it really it really came off well, and I think that it gave maybe a little bit more defensive solidity to the left side, and took a little bit of that burden of responsibility away from Manu. It gave both Manu and Shapi, as you mentioned, some more space and maybe time to work, and it also it changes passing angles too, right? And you have Salloi cutting in, you have and Denbei overlapping on that side, but then it's very common for Joveljic to sort of shade to that left hand side as well, and if Garcia's playing as the right side at 8, his it's a very sort of natural right-footed pass to get the ball to those guys. And so when he receives the ball in space, he can play out to Shapi, or he can play to one of those other 3 guys that we just mentioned, and progress the ball that way, and be maybe more dangerous. I mean, it remains to be seen whether that's something that's replicable, but it seems like it could be. Right, it seems like it could be something that that might work, and Jake Davis is going to be out again this weekend, and so they'll have a chance to sort of maybe run it back and see if they can continue to gain a little momentum, and it would be nice to see. It would be nice, honestly, to see them run out that same sort of midfield setup and see how it works against a higher quality defense.
Yeah, I put the question in the rundown: was this personnel dependent? Was this opponent dependent? We know San Jose is really going to attack up that side a lot, so having the more defensively responsible midfielder on that side makes sense from a tactical choice perspective. Obviously, I think Raudia is more effective on the left side of the field anyway. When we've seen him double pivot, he's been on the left. It just seems to be a place where he's more naturally sort of comfortable. Mm-hmm. So I think that has something to do with it. But obviously we know when Jake's on the field, he's going to be on the right side. So so is this a thing where because Jake's gone, we're able to do this? Or is this a thing that because San Jose is so effective up that side, we wanted to put the more defensively responsible midfielder on that side? I'm not really sure. I guess we'll find out. I do think that the circumstances are going to be different against Cincinnati. They are not one-sided like San Jose is, and although they do get Yedlin very high, so from that perspective, it is similar, right? Their right wing back does play extremely high in attack, so that will have an impact on it. But I think it's also going to be really dependent on, how healthy is Evander, is Orejano playing over there? Like there's going to be some stuff, and we'll get into that when we get into the Cincinnati preview. But I enjoyed it. The other thing that I think worked out really well by having sort of the more defensive player on the left is when they brought Basong in, he seemed more comfortable over there as well.
Yes, he really did.
Well, and he's a left back otherwise, right? Like
sense.
he's a converted left back. When he played in the double pivot, he played on the left side, and he was much better over there. We've seen him have some spotty performances on the right side of the field as an 8. When he came over and played on the left side, he seemed much more comfortable, much more, and he hits a very simple pass in the whole build-up sequence to the final goal, but he just seemed much more calm than he normally is on the ball. Mm-hmm. Like he wasn't pressing quite so much, and but also brought that energy and the defensive stuff that we needed to see out the game. So I probably his best performance since last year, honestly.
I mean, I think maybe Chad mentioned it in the Discord that performance really suits the expectations around sort of the game state, and also when he was brought on really suit the player, right? So he was, and this
making
is
the right subs at the right time. We've discussed this so much, man.
And putting players in a position to be successful, and I think that he was, and that's how you build confidence in players. That's how you build rapport in a team. And so again, like positive steps, right? Steps in the right direction.
It's one of those things where you end up bringing Basong on ostensibly to help close out the game, and he ends up playing a part in the final goal of the game. It's sort of like this is a thing that happens in Football Manager all the time. You like shut it down and bring defensive players in, and all of a sudden you score another goal. It's one of those things where I think, to your point, that you've got players comfortable and confident in what they're being asked to do, and it just creates a level. I don't want to say confidence again, but it creates a level of confidence that enables them to play a little bit more freely, not be so tense, and act. And I think this was a problem in the past where subs seem to be more like planned ahead of time, like pre-planned, and like this is the guy that comes in this circumstance.
No, we went from like no subs ever, right, to like having this sort of like very structured, pre-planned like sub pattern, and it was
no matter the game state. It's just this guy comes in now,
right,
and or I don't have any other options because I've already pigeonholed myself with the other decisions I've made, right? Yeah. And I think that there's a little bit more of a pragmatic approach being applied, and I think that is good. So, and it like whether this is a quote unquote new coach bump, I statistically it's been debunked many times that there's really no such thing. Thad Bell went on this thing talking about, well, that they could have already been. He like read something that was talking about like, well, they've already bottomed out, so of course they're going to go up. I'm like, no, new coach bumps have been debunked as the fact that teams do not actually perform better under new coaches.
Right.
It's not real.
Right.
They do not. Generally, they perform at or maybe slightly below or slightly above. It's never some sort of massive change from a coach. This or the early signs here are obviously different, but we're going to have to see over time if that continues. But I think that it's not from the change of a coach; it's from the change of enablement.
Yeah,
and that is something we've said has sort of we've banged on about putting players in opportunities to succeed for years. Right? Like we've sort of had these sort of head scratching moments of like, why is this person being asked to do this in this situation? Mm-hmm. And for the most part, over the last 3 games, the choices that have been made, I understand. I think there was a little bit of galaxy brain shit against Portland.
Agree.
But I think that was him trying something, recognizing it didn't work, and we went to something, and all the choices made sense again against San Jose.
Yeah, I would think I would tend to agree with that. I think that it's to me it seems to be more of a player centric approach and less of like a system centric approach, and so like you mentioned, that involves being pragmatic. It involves putting players in, as I said, in positions to succeed, not putting players in positions that they are uncomfortable in, or that can be a detriment to the team. And so I think just the overall result of that is success and confidence and rapport. Yeah. All of those things.
They desperately needed some sort of shake-up to just get their brains out of the places they were.
Absolutely.
And I think that so there is definitely a psychological aspect to this that has certainly seemed to have positively impacted the team. But there's a lot of little dumb stuff. I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but I've heard stuff like we know how detail-oriented Peter was. Right? Like everything was super managed, super specific, and he was the guy. Like if you show up to a meeting on time, you're 5 minutes late. Like he's that guy, right? It's just this. I know this stuff sounds dumb, but it actually means something to the psychology of the players and whether they feel comfortable in an environment that they're in. Yeah. Lunch after training was always at exactly, I think 11:45. I think 11:45 or 12:45 was one of the other, but it was a 45. Exactly at that time. No matter what you were doing, what you were trying to do afterward, you were there at that time. Kerry has no, you got like a 30-minute window to eat lunch. It's in here. Mm-hmm. Get your lunch in. And it's just like a simple thing. Like giving them, because some guys wanted to lift a little bit longer after training, or some guys wanted to get a little bit of treatment before they went and had lunch, like just giving them just a little bit of autonomy to make decisions. Not to say that you remove the structure completely and just like throw the shit in the air and go, oh, figure it out on your own. But these guys are adults, at least legally.
Right.
Some of them are pretty young adults, but still, like, they're adults. Like, let them, treat them as such. Some of these adults are paying millions of dollars a year to play soccer. Perhaps, like, the iron fist isn't exactly the way to manage them. And I think you're starting to see some of that stuff. Just slight changes. I don't think the things that Vermees was doing were that far off. I just think they were too reticent to change.
Yeah.
Or a little too sure that what they were doing was exactly right. And if you just follow exactly what I say and do it exactly my way, you'll be good.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it worked for 15 years. So.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. But I think the whole new coach bump thing and whatnot, I don't know. I think that it's more that we're seeing players who feel enabled. And Kerry said it after the game. He's like, there were still plenty of mistakes in this one. We're going to get to them here in just a moment. But like that need to be worked on, and he will make sure that they understand that they need to be worked on. But there's still just a level of like treating people like adults.
Well, and you have to trust that you can that these are professionals who can walk and chew gum at the same time, right? Like you can do the things that you do well, and still work on the things that you don't do well. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to sacrifice the doing well in order to focus on the things that you suck at. You can do both. You can do both things at the same time, and you have to be able to do that in order to that's how you develop players, right? You have to be able to.
At some level, people are who they are and what they are.
Amen.
There's been a business psychology book that's been out forever that it gets used in a lot of different environments called Now to Discover Your Strengths. And the whole concept of it is not only going through the whole process of understanding what your strengths are, but also going through the understanding of some of your quote unquote deficiencies or non-strengths are going to be that forever. No amount of training or working on it is all of a sudden going to make them better. But what you're really good at is what makes you good. Focus on those, maximize those, use those to your advantage. And that your coach should be doing that as well, going, hey, these are the things this guy's really good at. Mm-hmm. How do I maximize getting that guy into the position to utilize those? Yep. And I think that is just a sort of a difference in philosophy of how you go about putting a team together and putting them in a position to excel. And it has so far been a breath of fresh air, for sure. That said, can't fix everything. And as we mentioned several times already, that this defense isn't all of a sudden going to be shutting out teams. It's just not going to happen. The first, so they get up 3-0, and then within 10 minutes give up two goals going to halftime. They almost gave up a third. Went into halftime 3-2, thankfully. But yeah,
I was grateful halftime occurred when it did, because I felt like
all of us were sort of holding on. They even the broadcasters said it. They're like, Sporting is going to want to get to halftime as quickly as possible because this is not going well. And Joaquin Fernandez gets injured. It looked like he had blood on his shirt or something, and that's why they pulled him off. Come to find out it's a hamstring injury. Cool. Anyway, the first goal that San Jose scores, they get, Rodriguez just sort of parades up into the midfield, and nobody really closes him, and he just keeps on going, and nobody closes him.
Yeah.
And they just all keep retreating, and I'm like, somebody want to put pressure on the ball?
Yeah.
Maybe ever?
That this is a reoccurring theme with the defense is letting players advance the ball through midfield without anybody stepping to them at all. And so there is an element where you have to retreat, right? To regain your shape and to make sure that you are protecting your goal, but somebody has to take responsibility for stopping ball progression.
Well, and the other part is they keep retreating, and then Jansen Miller ends up keep holding somebody onside for the pass because they're retreating, right? Like there's also something about knowing when to. So Liverpool puts themselves in positions a lot where they're defending transition just because of the nature of the way that they attack.
Yeah.
It helps to have Virgil van Dijk in those circumstances, of course, but still, if you ever watch them when they're retreating, they get to a certain point and they stop their line. They hold it, right? It's very well drilled. They know exactly when to trap. They know exactly at what point the retreating stops, and they maintain their line so they can't be passed behind. And then they go up and pressure the ball. So worst case scenario, you lose the tackle and your partner behind you rotates to try to cover the ball. Best case, you win the tackle. Second best case, he tries to pass to someone who's offside.
Right.
Like these are fairly simple defensive tenets that aren't really being accomplished right now. Again, we'll get into this in Tactical Corner, but you're right. It's a recurring theme, and it's something they have to fix. Now, granted, this was when Joaquin Fernandez was still on the field. I do think Robbie Volater had a decent game after coming on for him.
I agree.
The difference in mobility between the two of them is stark. Yeah. Like I knew Fernandez was quote unquote languid. Like I knew that, but Volater was really he would close down on the on the touch line as well. He would go all the way out to the touch line and close down tackles because we know like Ndembe likes to get in forward and attack. And when the ball would get forward, he would be very aggressive in trying to close down on the touch line. So I was actually pretty happy with Volater coming in. So we'll have to see. It's probably going to be him and Jansen Miller on Saturday. So
and you never know. Like that could be a pairing that really works. And I think that I think that we've all been sort of maybe quick to want to move on from Volater, and it looked like that was where things was headed.
I think that's where things are still headed.
Right. I count myself among that. But like I said, you never know. I mean, so much of what happens between center backs is about playing to one another's strengths, and it's about that rapport, and it's not necessarily just about having players who are individually look good on the stat sheet or whatever. And I think that that's something that we've really recognized over the past few years is that really it's how those players play together that is important. And It might be the case that Miller and Volater play really well together. Who knows?
Well, I mean, we've seen them together already this year, but now granted, that was in the beginning of the season. And
right.
Completely different game states in those games and coaching methodologies. And Jansen Miller was getting his first, MLS minutes.
And he's improved a lot, and he's learned a lot since then. So we'll see.
He was better in this game quite a bit after the Portland game. Not, I mean, like I said, not without making mistakes. But also still providing enough positives.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
I'm fine. That the mistakes are okay, or they're whatever, right? Because the positives of his passing ability, his willingness to back press, like you see. The passing map that Seb Bush from MLS Stat put up, and it's like Jansen Miller's like average passing position was inside San Jose's half.
Yeah,
that's good stuff, right? Like that is actually stuff that puts an opponent off balance, as long as he's being effective tracking back. And I think in this circumstance, it wasn't that it wasn't the tracking back that was it was the tracking back that was a problem. It was too much tracking back, right? Mm-hmm. There was no organization to when they held their line and started to press the ball, and that's something they have to work on. Another problem that is consistent is their zonal marking on set pieces. Yeah,
it's pretty bad.
It's like I got my whiskey here. I'm gonna drink for scoring on a set piece. But seriously, it's like I don't even know what to say about it at this point. Get a set piece coach, please, for the love of God. I'm not saying that Kerry and Ash and Roger don't know how to set up set pieces, but whatever you're trying is not working. It's just not working. So maybe we should try something else. The other thing defensively, and then we're going to get into this as well when we get to Tactical Corner, they were picking up the front line was high pressing a lot more in this game than we've seen in the past, but the other lines didn't follow them. And so when there is 60 yards between your lines, that means there's a lot of space once the opponent breaks that first line of pressure, there's tons of space for them to play into, and San Jose used that over and over and over again. So if you're going to high press, cool, the other lines have to go up with you. And so somebody didn't get the memo. And this is also a thing. There's a problem they've had for several years now.
Absolutely. Yeah, none of these problems are at all new, and they all have a similar through line that runs through them, and that is that is the defense, really. Like the players who are on the defense, I think they're
just poor defenders.
They are, and they play poorly together. So,
I will say, and I don't know that if I hit this or not, I did think this was definitely Shelton's best game since coming back.
Yeah.
I don't know that he was great. I'm not going to act
that's a low bar, Drew.
Yeah, but it was pretty bad for the first couple, and he was much better in this game. I thought that he was tracking back a lot better. Like, he looked like he had his legs. He makes a really key intervention on a goal scoring chance that gets called offside, so it doesn't really matter. But he made the recovery run from like 25 yards and took like 3 yards a gap away and made the tackle. So like that kind of stuff makes me feel a little bit better about where he's getting to on his fitness, because that's just a huge component of what he's able to do from that position is recovery defend. And I did actually look at the numbers. In his first 2 games combined, now granted he only played like 60 minutes in both of them, he had 6 recoveries. Mm-hmm. In this game he had 11. So now, granted, 90 minutes plus game state have a lot to do with why those numbers are the way they are. But it's nice to see when the numbers sort of back up what your eyes tell you, which is he seemed to be tracking back a lot better than he had in the past. So I do think that is a positive, and hopefully it continues to be a positive, and hopefully Andrew Brody continues to get healthy, and there are multiple options to play at that position that are not named Jake Davis. Well, and Jake Davis can't play anybody right now. We'll have to see what the seriousness of his hamstring injury is. Sounds like he was able to move and run without pain, which is good, but he's not training either. So they're doing more tests on it, I guess, this week to see how bad it is. A lot of talk about the fact that this was obviously a fairly significant overperformance to underlying numbers. This game was, from Sporting's perspective, both offensively and defensively. John Pulskamp, by the numbers, saved a whole goal in this game. I do think some of that is a little bit of just the nature of how those numbers are calculated, not necessarily what the quality of the chances were. Sure. And I also think that I was talking about this on the Discord earlier today with Cameron when he asked about it, and he's like, is this just a situation where sometimes ball go in, right? And I think that is certainly a thing, because sometimes ball didn't go in against Portland. So like these things tend to balance out over time. There's certainly a component of that, but also I would look at it in this way. I do think the first 2 goals that Sporting scored were not replicable, right? You're not expecting to score those goals every week. I think the other 3 goals that they scored were goals that you would expect them to score regularly. Yeah. They were extremely high-quality chances. I know by the XG model, they mostly look like 50-50s, like they're 46, 0.46, 0.52, 0.4, whatever. I understand that. But this is where probability and quality and probability of a model of millions of shots versus what's actually happening in this game and where the goalkeeper actually, you know what I mean? Like what the movement is and whatnot.
The thing is, if you're able to create 3.5 XG chances in every game, you're probably going to be okay.
And they actually created 4.
Right.
And so that or they were 0.4-ish, right? There was a Salloi missed on 1, scored on 1, Tommy scored on 1. So yeah, there were 3. You're right, there were 3. Manu's didn't have a very high XG value, which I thought was kind of weird. But I guess, I mean, the goalkeeper was directly in front of him, so I guess maybe it wasn't a high XG value. But I think what I really want to get to on this, all XG, like the total XG that you see at the end of the game tells you is the aggregate number of, or the aggregate shot quality that you had in that game. That's all it tells you. It doesn't mean that you should have scored 4 goals.
Yeah.
It means when we added all, like, so first when San Jose had 4.1 XG, that doesn't mean that San Jose should have scored 4. It means the total number of shots they took in that game, when played over 1 million simulations, would have turned into 4 goals most times.
Right.
That's it. And the plurality of times, not even the majority of times. So I don't want to get down the weeds of the statistics and probabilities and things like that. I think the point you're making is the most important point. 0.4 to 0.5 XG chances are really, really good chances in soccer.
They are, absolutely.
And you should be prioritizing trying to get as many of those as possible. But most teams don't get more than 2 or 3 a game.
No.
Sporting got 3. That's good. That's really, really good. Yes, they scored a couple lucky ones, and they got some other really nice chances just off of really attacking a San Jose defense that just could not even be caused to give a shit at the end of the game. I don't even know. Like I've never seen so much just like watching the ball passed around them situations in my life. But still, like, the ball movement from Sporting was so crisp.
Yeah.
I think that they just realized that they weren't going to keep up with it. And I think that is a nice thing that we saw from this. Eric Tommy potentially being a right-wing super sub.
Looks good.
It looks good. Yep. And he's right-footed, so he can't wander too far in the midfield because he's on the wrong foot when he does.
Uh-huh. It keeps him over in his
he stays over on that he stays over on that right side because he's right-footed, but he makes a really, I mean, at that point Bruce was throwing all attackers on the field, and they had a guy playing left wing back who is not a left wing back, and Tommy just
which is another thing to think about when when you look at the XG numbers, right? Like the game states and the fact that San Jose was chasing the game for so much, and if you look at it, like 4.18 expected goals on 22 shots, right?
And one of them was a penalty.
And Sporting,
so
had,
it's 3.1 XG on, or 3.3 XG on 21 shots. That's pretty low XG per shot.
Sporting had 1.76 for 7 shots, right? So on a even without the penalty, Sporting has a higher per shot XG than San Jose does. It just San Jose's looks big. It is big, but they took 22 shots.
Yeah,
they took 22 shots.
And not all of them were bad, but a lot of them were.
Yep.
And Sporting did a really good job of limiting the number of times those shots are being taken by guys named Espinoza, Martinez, or Arango. As long as you're doing that and you let Daniel Mooney take headers, you're in good shape, right?
Uh-huh.
And I think that there's something to be said for these were potentially high value chances, but the state of when that player gets that chance, what the reality is of that player actually converting it, et cetera, you end up with a performance like this. I also highlighted the fact that so prior to Peter Vermes leaving, Sporting was averaging 0.06 non-penalty XG per shot.
Man.
That is rough.
That is brutal.
So in other words, Sporting would have to be taking, I think, 15 shots just to get 1 XG. Whereas since Kerry has taken over, they are at 0.154 XG per shot. So more, almost like 150% improvement. And that you're seeing it on the field. I mean, anyone can watch these games and see that they're getting better quality chances. I don't need to, we don't need to sit here and parse the XG, but I just feel like it's a thing that happens because, yes, they overperformed. They overperformed in this game, but we got to stop looking at single game sample sizes as a means for this is how the game should have gone.
Right.
That's the reason why they play the games.
Yes.
Miami beat Columbus, losing the XG battle 0.5 to 3.1. This is what happens in games. And it does balance out over a full season sample size, although we've also found in MLS, the best teams overperform their XG. Mm-hmm. Finishing is a thing. And if you're able to maintain that level of finishing, it works. So is this performance replicable? Probably not. But there were several really high quality scoring chances created by significant off-ball movement and getting attacking players in space.
Yep.
And that is something we have seen happen more and more and more over the last few games. And I think that is something we can expect to continue to see. Like you said, it'll be interesting against Cincinnati, who is a much better defensive team than San Jose, but not like a great defensive team. Some of their concerns have been related to the fact that they've been missing Matt Miazga. He did come back, so we'll discuss that later. But there is something to be said about whether or not they're going to be able to do this against higher quality opponents, at least higher quality defensive opponents. But they scored 2 goals against St. Louis. St. Louis has given up 6 goals still all season.
Yeah. Well, and frankly, what I'm looking for even more than a continuation of the attacking momentum. If John Pulskamp can save basically a goal a game, like that's pretty big time.
I feel like that was him sort of getting back to normal.
I agree. He was regressing to the mean a little bit.
Against Portland, he gave up a lot of goals, so I think this is just sort of evening him out on the season. I will see. I think that he didn't have the greatest game against Portland, but also everybody's going to have lumpy performances right now.
Absolutely.
And so like all of these guys are sort of getting their feet, and it's just kind of the natural kind of thing here. Last question before we move on to tactical corner. Is Kerry making a tactical impact on this team, like changing how they go about doing things? I think yes. I think it's subtle. I don't think it's as wide-ranging and different. Like, this is not a vastly different team structurally from how Peter Vermees was using them. But I do think that he has enabled some things that are making them more effective. And we've talked about the long balls, playing long a lot. Helps for 2 reasons, right? One, you keep the ball away from your goal, like we said last week. But the other part is you don't have to worry about compressing your lines in possession.
Yeah.
And having your rest defensive shape set up, because everybody's already across the fucking half line when the ball gets launched. Uh-huh. So like that's part of the reason why when you look at their passing network, and where they had fairly low possession in this game because of the game state and because of San Jose playing the way they do. So their passes, they didn't have near as many as they would normally have in a game, and it looks like they're all like right up at the half line.
Yeah.
And I think that's mainly because of the way that they play out from goal kicks and things like that. But also, just Kerry has the midfielders. They just have more freedom. All the midfielders have more freedom to do stuff. The 8s can get into the box and add to the attack. Either 8 can. Radoja is just not a guy who is going to naturally do that, so that's fine. Like, you have some defensive posture.
Honestly, that might be better, right?
Right.
It might be better, and it might because Manu is that guy, and we want 100%. Manu. We want Manu to be that guy, and
yes.
like that, the third goal, like Manu's goal was my favorite goal of the evening. Because not only is it replicable, but it's the two off-season transfer acquisitions really playing with one another, and it's a midfielder making a run into the box, right? And that's not something that we see a lot, game in and game out from Sporting Kansas City in the past. And so if that's the sort of license that they have, given that Kerry is the coach now, then I think that he is making an impact. If that's what it's leading to, is those kinds of plays.
Right, but I think the point that I'm making is I think some people are wondering, like, is he making these massive tactical changes?
No. It's more a vibe shift than anything, I think, right?
Yeah, but the vibes are created by giving players freedom.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? And I think and it's
Yeah,
not just a simple.
I meant vibes in the Ancelotti Bruce.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's for sure a thing. But Bruce is also notoriously an anti-tactics guy, and so is Carlo, right? Like they're both like, I want to play in a 4-4-2 and just let him go.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think that's Kerry. Kerry's a fairly
I don't know.
detailed
If we
person.
keep signing forwards, who knows? You know,
Well,
maybe that's where we're headed.
Yeah. Well, we lost one at the same time.
I know.
So we'll get there. We'll get there in a second. But Kerry is a fairly sort of cerebral guy. Like he thinks a lot about the game and thinks a lot about how the game works. I do not think he's a guy who is not interested in creating tactical advantages.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is a guy who's not going to be so reliant on a very specific methodology for getting to those tactical advantages. It's going to be, we're going to see something like this happen. If this guy goes here, then you go here. If this guy goes here, you need to be able to read the situation and get to a space so that your teammate can find you in that space. And I think you're right. The goal that Manu scored is inherently replicable because hitting a long switch is something we've seen this team do a lot this year. Radoja is obviously fairly effective at it. And it is something, and then Shoppy and Manu combining, being players that have rapport and know each other pretty well, like you could see that play out on the pitch. So yeah, I agree with you. But there were several beautiful. I mean, Tommy's goal, the whole passing sequence and the one touch sort of turnaround chip that Manu hits. Oh man, was that on Salloi's goal that he did that? I forget which one it was. Those two goals sort of blur together in my mind. But yeah, they're like the ball movement on both of those goals is beautiful.
Yeah, but it's purposeful too, right? It's like movement. It's movement to go more directly to goal and to be more goal dangerous. And I think that's part of that vibe shift, right? It's just an effort to be more dangerous more quickly and to not feel like you have to put your foot on the ball and take the sting out of the game and pass the ball around and control and milk the clock or whatever,
Oh, let him go attack the goal. Let him.
Right.
Yeah.
Your job is to score goals. Go score goals, right? It's like...
Well, he said that, if you watch Behind the Shield today, he said that in the pregame sort of speech before they went out there. He's like, I know this team can score goals. I know this team. I know we're going to break out. We're gonna break out and put a bunch of goals on somebody. Why not tonight?
Yeah.
Boom.
Great. Love it.
Yeah. And it just, it's a different sort of vibe for sure. And I think that is probably as impactful as these subtle tactical changes, which I do think they're subtle, but they're different. They're different mindset. There's some very specific things that are happening that are different. And then there are some very less specific and more nuanced things. But that leads us into a problem that they have, but that all of this attacking, taking the ball forward and getting four guys into the box plus, a couple midfielders behind is putting them in a situation where their rest defensive posture is not ideal.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that it can't be. There are many teams that attack very well that also counterpress very well. And so maybe I'll let you cook on this a little bit, just because I like to hear your thoughts on, kind of what stuff you see that could be improved upon, because I continue to see a situation where, yes, they are being effective in moving the ball forward, but they're not very good at, if there's a turnover, responding to it very well. Sometimes they are. They want to counterpress for sure, but I feel like their counter pressure is only really good in the middle third of the field. I don't think it's very good in the attacking third. And I think that is something they need to improve if they don't want to continue to get countered to death.
So I think that there are some structural things and sort of like how the team sets up that can be helpful. But I kind of want to caveat that in the beginning to say that like a lot of the issues could be mitigated by the continued development of Bartlett, right? Because like a good defensive midfielder who has range and who has instincts can really, I mean, it's like a game changer, right? For preventing counterattacks and for keeping the field tilted towards the attack. And so I think that is a part of his game that that is maybe lagging behind some of the other thing. Like he's proven that he's a good passer. He is. I do think that he gets pulled out of position a little bit. I don't feel like his instincts are quite where they need to be in terms of snuffing out fires before they happen, right?
It tends to be really chaotic back pressure when the ball comes near a guy that's near him, right?
Right.
And he is good at that and making that guy release the ball backwards, which has value. I don't want to like diminish it, but. And I'm not suggesting that all of a sudden Jacob Bartlett is going to become Elie, but one of the things Elie was elite at was reading passing lanes. The guy could see not just the passing lanes he would hit into, the ones you would try to hit into.
Right.
And just was unbelievable at seeing that pass before it happened and intercepting it.
And you're right, but it doesn't even necessarily have to be interceptions, right? It's really about positioning just in a way that makes the other team have to consider you, right? That makes the other players have to pause for a split second when they're trying to make progressive passes, and that split second allows your teammates to back press or to get their cover shadows where they need to be. And so, I think that automatically when you are trying to play with a 19-year-old defensive midfielder, you're automatically kind of putting yourself at a little bit of a deficit. And so that said, I mean, there are still some things that can be done to I think improve, and I think that it's worth thinking about how, in your sort of attacking phase of play, are you going with a 3-2 back, or are you going 2-3? Because you kind of have to choose one of those, right? Like either you're going to have Kyrie Shelton stay back. Logan Dembe is not going to stay back very often, right? You just have to realize that, and you have to make Kyrie a de facto third center back, and so you'll have Kyrie and two center backs, and then the two is going to be Bartlett and whoever else is playing that other midfield role, right? That's that 3-2 shape that's everybody loves to use nowadays. The other option, and I think that it's something that the team has kind of done especially since Kerry's took over, is more of like a 2-3 type thing, right? Where you have your two center backs, and then you have your holding midfielder, and then it would be like Radia.
It would be Radia.
It would be So it would be Radia, Bartlett, Shelton, right, as your three, and the whole their job, right, is to maintain that shape and to prevent counterattacks, especially from coming through the middle of the field, right, and so I think that is. That's probably where the thought process needs to start is with those players, and then I think once you decide on what shape you're going to use, and it could vary game to game, and it can vary by according to your opponents, sure, but once you decide what shape you're going to use, then that is going to give you the base to build your counter pressure off of. And I think that one of the things the team has done in the past really well is kept their attacks really wide. And so if you lose the ball, then you have you have the end line and the touch line that you can sort of use as defensive measures to help box teams in, but this team right now is not necessarily using all that width in the attacking third the way that they have in the past, and so that
And sort of intentionally, they're not
absolutely
doing
right,
that.
and I don't think that that's a bad decision, but I do think that it does kind of shift, to your problems, right? It shifts problems you have to solve into a different area, so it changes your counter pressure positioning, and it changes who you have to pay attention to. And so, I think that in order for I think that this team has the personnel, especially in the attack, to be a good counter pressing team. I think that they have been that in the past, and I don't think it's that much of a stretch. I really think that at this point, it's just the and you hinted at it earlier. It's sort of the miscommunication and lack of organization between lines, right? So, and I think that. I think that as the season goes on, I would expect for that to improve. And as Jacob Bartlett continues to improve, I would expect it to improve even more. What do you think?
I think for sure the communication between lines and understanding what spaces they need to control is a really big part of it. Bartlett is a fairly vocal player on the field.
Mm-hmm.
He's
He
generally
really is.
waving around. He's generally
Yep.
he's telling people what he need, where he's going, where he needs them. I think all that stuff is good. I think to your point, the counter pressing they're doing is a little bit basic. So when you talk about the fact that they do aggressively counter press, yes they do, but they just sort of run into guys' backs.
Right.
They are not pressing the player into an area where they can control it. They are just sort of adding pressure, right?
Well, I don't see them. I don't see them pressing.
But they're not taking pressing angles to push the ball into an area where their defenders can help, right?
Right.
They are so like a really really important point, like or important important point in how you are successful in pressing is the angle at which you take.
Yeah.
It's really, really important, both for the cover shadow behind you and limiting the passing angles for the opponent to pass by you, and additionally pushing their possession in a direction where you have help, either the sideline or another teammate or any of those kinds of things, right? And what I see Sporting doing a lot is a lot of vertical pressing.
Yes.
They're not taking angles to that based on their spatial awareness of what's behind them and where both their opponents are as well as where their teammates are, that they're eliminating options for the opponent. Like that's the main issue that I see with it. I don't know that the 2-3-5, 3-2-5 structure is necessarily the issue, except for when their lines get stretched. I think it's that they don't seem to be trying to drive the opponent in a different area. And I think that like you're almost sort of trying to shepherd the ball into a place where you can create control. And the thing that is not happening is they aren't doing that. There's very vertical pressure, and it still allows the opponent to go either direction, left or right. And usually you want to eliminate one of those and push them in a direction where everybody knows it's going. And I think that maybe something that Zavagnin can do is say, look, we're just not going to allow them to play through the middle. Send everything wide. So if we turn over the ball in the right vertical half space or over, everyone's pushing them to the right channel. Do not let them go left.
Yeah.
Similarly, if they're on the left side of the middle of the field, you're pushing the ball that direction. And everyone's got movement coordinated to just sort of cut off areas of the field so that it makes it simpler for them to know where to defend. Does that make sense? So I think that there's just I think the guys are capable of making the movements to the ball. I think that there is not enough coordination between the players, all with a unified goal in mind of trying to close off the ball into a certain area. And that is how you stop counterattacks, is to create just enough delay so that your teammates can get back and get into their shape and cover the people that are running behind them. And I just think in a lot of circumstances, it just seems more like they're trying to win tackles instead of driving the ball into an area of safety.
Yeah. Yeah. And, when if you have the skill set of being able to shepherd the ball in certain places, not only can you direct it towards maybe places that are less dangerous, but you can direct it towards certain players too, right? And then you can start to take advantage of mismatches. And if you want Miazga on the ball because he hasn't been playing a lot, and maybe he's the least adept passer between him and Miles Robinson and Nick Hagglund, maybe you want to force him to be the one to have the ball and have the your pressure trigger off of him. But those are sort of like next level pressing events, right?
I'm more just like, let's not let the opponent counter.
I totally agree.
Just stop transition events.
Yep.
Don't worry about anything special. Don't worry about getting a really nice turnover. I mean, sometimes the nice turnovers are good, but I would prefer that the really good guys are doing that. So, Manu Garcia did that in this game. Salloi, before he got his second goal and then almost his third, Manu Garcia intercepted a pass, like it was a diagonal they tried to hit, put his foot up in the air, intercepted the pass, drove straight downhill, and put another one almost on Salloi's foot for a goal. I'll let those guys see that, read that, do that, right? That's fine. I'm more talking about that 2-3 or 3-2 behind, having the goal of turnover happens, those guys in the front five start to counter press. My goal is to adjust the shape of the five behind to ensure that nothing bad happens if they don't win that tackle.
Yeah. So I can tell you that when I was coaching, and obviously this is at a much lower level and kids and not adults and all the caveats, right? But I always preferred to do a 2-3. Because having three players sort of shielding those center backs.
When I was a kid, we called it the double W. That was kind of the setup. It was a 2-3. It was a 2-3-5, but it was a 2-3-2-3 basically. And it's really common in youth.
Yeah, and that just gives you a lot of range, right? In terms of being able to cut off counterattacks. If you have, if you think of it as lines, right? You have 2 and then 3, so that 3 line covers more of the field, and they are in my opinion in most cases in a better position to disrupt counterattacks than if you go with a 3-2. And I don't know. It'd be really interesting to hear what Zavagnin thinks about that, and because I haven't, frankly, I don't know that I've ever heard a coach really talk in depth about that sort of attacking shape and how best to prevent counterattacks using that. So I would be really interested to.
I'm going to send you, I'll put it, I'm going to put it in the Discord, but
Do it.
Will Still did an interview with Sky Sports where he actually showed his whole pregame presentation that he would do, that he did before a game when he was at Lens, at RC Lens in France. So for those of you who don't know who Will Still is, he's kind of notorious in the soccer world because he's a guy who, was big into soccer, loves soccer, played a lot of Football Manager, and then got a job as a manager in Ligue 1. And but does have some. He's very young. He's like 32 years old.
It's like every nerd's dream.
Yeah, but he's an English dude he's still the manager at Lens in Ligue 1. And he did a thing from a game last year, Lens versus Stade de Reims. I don't know. It's French. Matt Demline's going to message me later and tell me how bad I'm pronouncing all this. But anyway, Stade de Reims, something like that is how it's. Anyway, it's Lens versus Reims. It's the most French thing of all time. But regardless, he he went through what his pregame sort of overview was and like showed the presentation, and I think he had to take some stuff out of it for obvious reasons, but actually talked about cover shadow positioning and all that. Like, here's what we want our attacking shape to be. Here's how we expect them to try to transition. Here's what our cover shadow positioning should look like. Like, he actually went through it. Like, that was, and I'm certain that these are things that are being discussed.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the coach to the players. Something's not really like, there's just an organization element that's still not there. Yeah. And I'm not sure what's causing that, but I'll put the link to the video in the Discord. So everyone listening can check it out, but it's I thought it was fairly interesting. He's just talking to Jamie Carragher about like what pregame looks like when preparing for a match, which I appreciate. I love that stuff. I could eat that stuff up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what Kerry does, but I do think that I think that these are things that can be solved with a little bit of structure and organization. They don't necessarily need to be solved with, well, not solved. They can be improved. Yeah, with a little bit of structure and organization. They're not going to be solved, but the team can be better and a little less porous if they are able to be more effective in their counter pressure and in their positioning and their organization. And hopefully that is something that they will continue to work on, because it is a problem.
It does. I will say that it does put the way that the team is playing right now puts a lot more. I guess maybe responsibility or impetus on Shoppy, because so many times he is isolated on that right hand side, and if he loses the ball, there's not a lot of people over and there's not a lot of his teammates over in that area oftentimes to apply effective counter pressure, and so.
Do you think the 2-3 helps that a little bit, because if Shelton's a little closer to him in that circumstance?
That would be my take on it. Sure.
Okay.
Right. I mean, like so. I mean, the whole thing is to mitigate risk as much as you can, while at the same time, freeing up your most creative players to do what they need to do. Right. So you want, Manu is a very willing presser, but I don't want Manu pressing every.
But he's
every
not
time.
a very good tackler. Like,
no,
that's the thing. It's like he presses, but he presses to delay. He doesn't press to win the ball.
No, but the idea is if you can get pressure from that front 4 or 5, and then the defenders and midfielders then can step in and win balls and intercept balls, right? Like that's the way that Peter Vermes' effective counter pressures worked. Those were not teams who were heavy tackling teams, but they counter pressed aggressively, and then they had players who read the game well, who were able to step in and intercept passes that were hurried.
Well, you had an otherworldly midfielder at reading the game for pressure in Roger Espinoza that just sort of, like, that's the problem, right?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Like, how do you fix this problem? Clone Roger Espinoza. Like, that's really how you solve this problem. Unfortunately, that technology is not available to us. So they're going to have to work on it structurally. They're going to have to work on it organizationally.
You never know. In 20 years, we might have lots of little low Roger clones running around.
I mean,
that'd be great.
If you put those two players together,
I'm telling you, man.
Holy shit. Because Raj doesn't have a shot like Glow does. Like, Raj was it was a well-known joke among Sporting Kansas City fans about Raj hitting the 15th row of the cauldron. Okay, let's move on to potpourri. Just like your favorite Jeopardy category, we got a couple topics in and around the Sporting Kansas City MLS soccer sphere. The first is, it is the end of the primary transfer window in MLS, which means news is hotting up. The first one sort of came out of seemingly nowhere yesterday, which is kind of how Sporting Kansas City transactions go. We don't really hear much about it until it's almost done, and then all of a sudden all the news comes hot and heavy. This started via a report from Mexico. From the reporter was at Media Tiempo, but he normally covers I think Atlas and Chivas. So that said, I have been reliably informed that the player that Sporting Kansas City signed on loan from Santos Laguna, Santiago Munoz, who we'll talk about a little bit here in a second, has the same agent as one Alan Pulido. So there is some conversation as to if that had something to do with, one, how he got on Sporting Kansas City's radar, and two, how a guy who covers Chivas might have gotten a hold of this information. But anyway, he started reporting middle morning yesterday that this deal was basically done, and then just hours later, Sporting is announcing it. So Santiago Munoz, who's was born in El Paso, so he has an American passport, so no international roster spot needed. Is joining the team on loan with an option to buy. So Munoz is ostensibly a center forward. He's not a big center forward. He's like 5'9", so he's not like a big dude. But he is ostensibly a center forward. Plays some as sort of an attacking mid / shadow striker type of guy. Does seem to be able to cut in on his right foot from the left as well. So, maybe there's some opportunity for him to do a Daniel Salloi facsimile. But had extremely high prospects when he was about 18. They were talking about him being sort of the next big thing for the Mexican national team and all this stuff. And unfortunately, over the last couple of years, has not really met those expectations. So now he's 22, turns 23 this summer. And spent a year at Newcastle and only played in their youth setup and then went back. So hasn't had the most, auspicious career for so far, and was sort of at the time a bit of a head scratching addition, right? Given the team had 3 rostered center forwards, until we find out that William Agada is moving to Real Salt Lake for $500,000 in GAM. That can go up to $850,000 in GAM if he were to re-sign in Salt Lake. So that's a big component of this with Agada in general, is that it did not seem like he was going to be re-signing in Kansas City. And so can RSL get him? Does RSL first want to pay him what he's asking for, as well as will he decide to stay there long term? So that is kind of a key component to this. There are some sell-on components to this. So if RSL were to move him this year, which seems sort of unlikely given the fact that he's out of contract, Sporting would get 50% of whatever they receive for him moving him this year. And then if he were to re-sign and RSL were to move him on from there, Sporting retains a 20% sell-on fee. So there's some compensation potential in here. I would think the sell-on fees are pretty unlikely to turn into anything, but maybe they do at some point.
Hey man, I appreciate your skepticism, but Diego Luna feeding the ball to Agada, man.
Yeah, well, I think that will, we'll get into that part of it here in a second. I'm just saying the skepticism I have of Agada being moved again by RSL for 50% of the fee this summer when he's out of contract, very, very low. And then Agada all of a sudden getting a move out of MLS when he's 26. I don't see that happening either. 26, 27, somebody's going to pay money for him to leave.
Maybe he'll blow up and Saudi will come calling, You
yeah, maybe
know.
so. I don't know that. Yeah, anyway. I don't think that William Agada's religious beliefs align with Saudi Arabia's. Uh-huh. But anyway, the short of it is, Willie was not resigning in Kansas City. And there was no reason for anyone on the Kansas City technical staff to prioritize him in the future because he was not re-signing and they have a project they're trying to build for the future. It made sense for him to move somewhere where he would get substantive playing time, and he does. And in the meantime, they sign this other guy on loan to see if he can be maybe the other center forward that they need. Mason Toye has very rarely made the game day roster. That could be mostly to do with the fact that Willie Agata existed and was just a better center forward than Toy. Or it could be a situation where they just weren't very high on him, so they wanted to get someone else. Regardless, it's a five. Even if all they get is the $500,000 in GAM, it is a good haul on a player they were going to lose for free at the end of the year.
Absolutely. It's good business, however you cut it, because it was obvious that for one reason or another that Agata did not figure prominently in their plans, and so much so that they went out and grabbed, snatched up Dejan Joveljic as soon as they could, and so that's the way the game works, man. And kudos to them for being able to get it across the line, and hopefully Agata has a good time getting balls from Luna and Real Salt Lake, and continues to find success in his career.
I have no ill will towards Willie Agata. I want to be really clear about this. I'm sort of speaking the facts about the situation in Kansas City. It had just gotten to the point where realistically he was not going to be a long-term option here. Yeah. So it makes sense for him to find a place where he can either earn his next contract, be it at Salt Lake or somewhere else, or just ball out for a while, like at least play, right? And I think from Kansas City's perspective, getting some compensation. Daniel Salloi did report that this is 2025 GAM, so it's part of RSL's U22 allocation, U22 model allocation. So Sporting has to spend that GAM this year. So that means they need to bring somebody in the summer. Yeah. This is money they have to spend this year. They still have some other U22 GAM they haven't spent, I believe. So there's no way they've used all $2 million of it. So the vibe that I'm getting is that they are pooling resources to be able to make some moves in the summer, which is good, right? I mean, obviously, you're 2/3 of the way through the season when the window opens. So like they're substantively,
they're likely making U22 moves, not DP moves. Yeah,
probably. It depends. The GAM they don't need for the DP, right? Like if they can, if they've only, I promise you, they've only allocated $1 million of the U22 model GAM so that they can use a DP slot if it's available. I think it's more likely in the summer that they could get a good DP than they would in the winter. Yeah, to be completely honest, at least if they're shopping in Europe. So, Kevin De Bruyne to Kansas City confirmed, obviously. But no, I think that it is possible that they can do a lot of things, and they have a lot of flexibility. I think they are looking to be active in the summer window. How active is really going to be dependent on what players are available and who they can get over and all that kind of stuff. But the expectation is U22s, TAM players, or DPs could all be in the cards. I think they need to be focusing in central midfield and defense. Mm-hmm. Obviously. Those aren't typically U22 players. Yeah. Or at least you're not successful with those as U22 players. I mean, sometimes at center back, but not often. Yeah. So I'll be interested to see what the sort of the mix is there and who they're recruiting. But they have a lot of options. They have a lot of flexibility. They've maintained a lot of flexibility, and I think that's something that Burns has done a really good job of. Yeah, totally not painting himself into a corner about it.
I was just thinking, like, if you compared this conversation right now to conversations we were having a year ago, and everything, the flexibility was not even in the lexicon a year ago, right? Mm-hmm. We had zero flexibility.
It was Joaquin Fernandez or bust.
So Burns deserves a lot of credit, obviously, and honestly, it's 5 years ago, like, none of this was happening in MLS at all, right? I was talking to my son about this today, because he was saying that he is hearing more and more in the streamer sphere about MLS, and what I shared with him is that today was the end of the primary window, but there's lots going on, right? There's lots of trades and purchases happening, and that really has not necessarily been the case, especially for Kansas City in past years. And it's just kind of fun to see MLS really sort of engaging in the global market, and hopefully it'll continue to improve.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the majority of the movement happening here at the end of the transfer window is within the league. It's trades, it's moves like that.
I think I think that's still fun.
Well, I mean, RSL tried to buy another striker from Boavista, but it's Boavista.
Yeah.
I heard all kinds of crazy shit about that deal, like that Boavista was trying to get them to pay in crypto so that they couldn't have liens taken against it. Seriously, like there are articles from just last fall about how all of Boavista's revenue or transfer revenue would have to be given directly to their creditor, that the contractor that did the renovations on their stadium, because they were like $7 million in unpaid bills related to that. So like there are, if I'm not going to repeat all this stuff, follow Tom Bogert, he's got all of it, but there are teams all as far back as 2020 that still haven't been paid by Boavista for transfers. So like this is an absolute shit show of an organization that I cannot believe any team even considers doing business with at this point. But or I don't even know why a team would consider a player would consider signing there. I guess this guy is Bozanic, I guess is how it's pronounced. I don't know exactly. That the center forward that they were trying to sign from Boavista had passed his medical and was like in Salt Lake, like waiting for the paperwork. And then
they're like,
processed.
"We need more money."
Yeah, or they changed their demands or something. And so like now he's stuck going back to this shithouse of a club. I mean, Reggie Cannon was ordered to pay them back like $1.4 million. Like there's all kinds of stuff, man, that just don't go to Boavista. Don't work with them. Anyway, it's completely wild circumstance. I don't know anything about Santiago Munoz other than what I've seen on the internet. I've never seen him play. Maybe I did see him play. Did we play Santos in Leagues Cup one year? I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Anyway,
if they did,
maybe I'm thinking of Leon. They have similar colors, the green and white stripes. Anyway, I don't know much about him. He has 6 goals in his professional career. Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you're expecting Joveljic to be the guy pretty much all the time, and they only play every Saturday. So like, I mean, yeah, it's not impossible that Joveljic takes an injury or something and you need somebody else to play, but it's not. I do wonder if Mason Toy's non-inclusion has been more related to his just William Agata's existence, and whether we'll see him play a little bit more. But I mean, at least Toy has more than 6 goals in his professional career.
And Toy also is at least a little more positionally flexible than either Agata or Munoz. So
right, he played right wing in that one appearance, and then center forward for a couple minutes at the end of the was it the St. Louis game? Anyway. So that happened. There's been, like you said, a lot more moves as the window closes. I'm just seeing that Jean de Silva got traded from Atlanta to St. Louis. I'm seeing that Austin FC traded for Robert Taylor from Inter Miami. Well, which I think is a great move for them, honestly. Like I think, and Taylor was on like $150K salary charge because they had bought him down with GAM. Yeah, he's only on like 300 and something grand salary, and they bought him down to like 150 with GAM. So
if there's anything Austin needs, it's another attacker. So
yeah, exactly. Honestly, man, they were playing some pretty poor, like pretty bad defensive football. Like all they were doing was defending for like a month. They finally have started attacking again. And then this one kind of hurts a little bit because This is a guy I could see fixing a couple problems for Sporting Kansas City. Julian Gressel appears to be going to Minnesota United.
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, he will be really good there.
Yep.
Like, he will fit right in there, right wing back thing they're doing.
Yep.
Although it does make me wonder, why you signed Gressel. Like, Longwane has been so good. Bongi Longwane has been playing right wing back for them and been really, really good. So
I don't know. Other than, it's a guy who's looking, he's looking to sign with the club. He's looking to make a move. He wasn't playing.
That was the whole conversation around him, is that he only wanted the East Coast because of like his wife's business and all this other stuff. And anyway.
Yeah, when you say that and you scare off everybody, then you wind up,
going to Minnesota.
Having to spend your weekends at the Mall of America. I shouldn't say. I've never even been to the Twin Cities, so I shouldn't talk trash. It's on my list.
Minneapolis is actually really nice, especially in the summer. Like, it's beautiful there in the summer.
That is what I've heard.
All right, let's move on to the Kansas City Current. They continue to suck the life out of NWSL, just dominating everyone they play. 400 plus minutes now since giving up a goal. They've given up crazy. One goal in the entire season so far. Talk about the opposite of Sporting Kansas City. Extremely dynamic attacking team that doesn't get scored on. They have a very good goalkeeper. Lorena is a massive upgrade in goal.
Yeah, she really is.
Even over Schultz, which is saying something.
Yeah.
Schultz was much better in the second half of the season, but Lorena is really good. The thing that I noticed in this game, well, first of all, obviously Michelle Cooper, twists her ankle in the previous game, so she wasn't available. So Nichelle Prince plays right wing. Prince is a much more traditional right winger. Mm-hmm. So I was interested to see how that would work out, but also it's sort of worked out because Bia was in the game and she's much more of a traditional center forward. So they looked a little bit more like a 4-2-3-1 than they have in the past. But the other thing was that meant that Claire Hutton had to go to the bench, and I was kind of interested to see this DiBernardo-Labonta double pivot, and it was actually extremely effective.
Yeah.
Like, really quite good. And I don't have a huge problem with Claire Hutton coming off the bench sometimes. Like, I think that's fine. She's 19. Like, I think that there are still some opportunities for her to improve her game. Mm-hmm. And I think, having to battle for minutes against seasoned veterans who are very good at their job is probably a good way for her to improve her game. So I think that all that's fine. But, it didn't look like Houston was ever going to score in this game. Like, would they get like 3 shots? Yeah, I think they ended up with 5. They had 3 shots through like 75 minutes. They just sort of sat back. They were like, we're just going to bunker, I guess.
Well, what else are you going to do? And you texted me to that effect during the game. It's like, how do you approach playing against the Current? And, unless you have, an elite, attacker, especially in transition like Banda, I mean, what are you supposed to do, right? Like you can't, if you bunker, they're just going to batter you until you break, because they have the players to do that. Especially now that Bia is healthy and Dabinia is playing like vintage Dabinia. Nothing you do will work, right? Like consistently. If you bunker, they're just going to batter you until you give up. If you try and get forward a little bit, then they're going to slice you on the counter, and they have one of the best transition goal scorers, probably in women's
the world,
football, right? Yeah, and they're super super scary, and it's to your point about the goalkeeping, it's. That was it always seemed to be kind of like the weak link of the club, right? And the goalkeeping is not anymore, and so it's just like juggernaut time,
They look like the women's version of the Liverpool men's team.
Yeah, they do.
Like, they're gonna pull it out eventually. You can try to hold them off if you want to do that, but eventually you're just gonna lose, just the way that it goes. Like,
they're inevitable.
it's fun to be on the good side of that.
It is.
I like it.
And the thing is too, and you sort of hinted at this, they're like super deep now that, they're getting everybody back, and like you can put a player like Claire Hutton on the bench and it's fine, right? It's not that big of a deal. They're just scary, man.
Well, that was a big thing for me. I hadn't seen Nichelle Prince put a fairly, imprint on a game that much.
Right.
She was a fine sub in some circumstances last year.
That's
They
the way
got
I
her
felt
kind of in the
about it
middle of the
too.
season. She was fine,
Yep.
but nothing like that great. But she actually found space eventually in this game and was a key component to why they scored one of the goals. So I think that, like, that's what I'm saying is, like, they can beat you in different ways with different personnel doing different things, and that it just is so hard to, like, some teams you kind of, like, if you know what you're preparing for, you do your best to limit that, right? Like, even Orlando, I don't know that Orlando's that great this year. They do have an otherworldly talent in Barbara Banda, but they don't, like, they're not like that fantastic of a team. Like, they're not, like, the Current have, like, more than doubled their XGD in 5 games already.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're talking about levels between these performances so far. If Orlando doesn't beat Chicago, 6-0 or 6-1 on the first game of the season, their numbers look garbage other than the wins. Right? I mean, and good for them for winning games, but comparatively, we're still talking about 2 different tiers of performances, and I think Orlando can be managed defensively, and we saw the Spirit do that to them, right, and get a win against them. So, and the Spirit aren't even close to full strength. Trinity Rodman is now taking time away to get her back looked at, which do not like to see that at all. But, like, the difference between what the Current are doing right now and everyone else in the league is fairly significant. Now, we're talking about a 5-game sample size, and obviously things can change, and a lot, hopefully I'm not putting the hex on them, but, like, right now they are looking dominant in a way that I just don't remember in this league, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, even the league has always been at least, somewhat competitive top to bottom, but that is not the case right now.
I'm mostly happy for you, because you get to follow.
I get to follow a good soccer team. Thanks.
You're welcome.
There's one good soccer team for me to follow.
I'm thinking about you, Drew.
Yeah, that sounds like what you're thinking about. Dick. Okay, one thing to look for. Sporting goes to Cincinnati for the sort of Saturday brunch game. That's the early game on Saturday afternoon, so 1:30 Central Time. They play in Cincinnati. I did a little bit of research on this one. I thought FC Cincinnati was better than they are. Their results are good.
Yeah.
Their underlying numbers are not good. I mean, they have a negative expected goal differential. Their expected goals and expected goals allowed are not that much better than Sporting's. They're pretty close. A lot of that has to do with the fact that Matt Miazga had not really returned yet from his knee injury. He did start and play 45 minutes last week. He subbed in at the end of the previous game, so, like, it seems like he's working up to fitness. I think we could expect him to start and probably play at least a half, if not 60 minutes on Saturday. So, like, that does help them a lot. And I think when Miazga and Miles Robinson are healthy, like, their defense is significantly better, of course. Gilberto Flores is not Matt Miazga, so like there is definitely and they moved Awaziem in the offseason because Miazga was coming back, and they'd have to do that to maintain cap compliance. Also, Evander has been in and out of the lineup, so I think that some of their issues have been more availability related than necessarily talent related. Like, when they have their top talent, they are an extremely good team.
Yeah, I mean that. In addition to Evander being in and out, they're missing Nwobodo. They're missing Teenage Adibi. They're missing
Yeah,
Yuya
Kubo.
Kubo.
Yeah, and it sounds like Yuya
So
Kubo and Nwobodo are still out,
yeah,
or weren't in practice according to Laurel Failer. So I think that that's probably still going to be a thing. But yeah, you're right. They do have a lot of injury absences, which is limiting their effectiveness.
yeah. I don't know. I they're just one of those teams since they're in the East. I don't. It's hard for me to remember the last time that Sporting played them. So It's just kind of like playing somebody you don't get to play very much, and I'm looking
Was it
forward
Leagues Cup 2023?
That sounds sure if you say so.
The only reason I remember that's exactly what it was, and this is why I'm going to get you back for talking shit to me, was because I missed that game because I was supposed to go to that game because I was in New Zealand. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
I was sipping a beverage at the pub in New Zealand, watching
Very
the game on
nice.
my phone.
I would remember it too. Then I think.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. But I think that. So I think the key question is: can Sporting continue to create enough high quality chances against a team that is just candidly, even without Miazga, much better defensively than San Jose?
Yeah.
And even without Nwobodo, is better in their midfield than San Jose. So I don't know. I think that I do wonder if Salloi will be able to do similar things. I mean, Miles Robinson's obviously a much better defensive center back than Rodriguez, but the back three does put Salloi in a position, especially because of how high Yedlin likes to play, where he's going to be matched up against a center back a lot, and his runs are a problem for a center back in a lot of circumstances. So I think it's going to be interesting to see if he's able to find similar, or at least some, maybe not similar levels, but cause problems for Robinson and their back line with his runs, because he does that sort of inverted run that sort of can either get behind or in between the right center back and the middle center back, and I think there is opportunity there for him. I don't know what other things you think.
I think the same can be said for the other side of the field too. I think that Shoppy needs to have a big game as well. I think that especially as you kind of pointed out, when you go up against three center back lines, it can be an opportunity for your wingers to do some damage, and so and we've seen Sporting Kansas City be able to take advantage of that kind of thing in previous years, and so this is a traditionally defensively stout Cincinnati team, and so I would expect there to not be anywhere near the volume of chances, and so really I think it's going to come down to being clinical and finishing the chances that do come, and that's why you paid $10 million for attacking talent in the off season, right? Is so that they can have an impact on this game, and so those three players plus Salloi need to do that, and let the rest of the team focus on defending, because Cincinnati's front line is kind of scary too, and so it's
not going to shut this team out in their house. Absolutely not.
Yep.
Evander plus Kevin Denke, like, no way. Come on, that's not happening. So you
versus
better be creating chances.
Robbie Volliter and Jansen Miller. Whew. All right, let's go. I hope John Polskamp has his big boy pants on this weekend, because he's gonna need them.
Yeah, I mean it's somehow Chicago gave up 3 goals to them on the road. Now, granted, again, some of these were a little fluky goals. FC Cincinnati is coming off a couple over performances to their XG, so maybe they'll regress. Maybe they'll have a tough time. Maybe John Polskamp will jump out of his boots and make a bunch of saves. We'll have to see. It is a much more difficult matchup, I think, than San Jose. San Jose allows Sporting to play the way they want to play, which is attack them, the shit out of them, and just sort of do the best they can on defense, right? It was a chaotic up and down match, which is the way that that I think Zavagnin would prefer these matches to go.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Against a team that's much more organized and difficult. And although I will say so much of their defense is also reliant on their double pivot, and Anunga and Pavel Buka are not the same thing as Nwabodo and Pavel Buka.
Yeah.
And Anunga is just not anywhere near as good as Nwabodo, and Buka gets fairly high and plays a lot in the attack. So I think that there might be opportunities there, but like I said, their center backs are so much better that maybe it doesn't matter. We'll see. It is going to be. It's going to be interesting. I do think your point is valid about Shoppy. One of the reasons that the Peter Vermees, quote unquote, the Peter Vermees 4-3-3, and we're running a similar version of it now, even without Peter Vermees, works against back threes is that it has inverted wingers. That is a problem for back threes because typically those wingers are behind the wing backs and they're cutting in between the gaps of the center backs, and that is a problem to defend for those guys, and you need a lot of help from your midfielders in that circumstance. So there could be opportunities there for either Shoppy or Salloi to create, difficulties and pull defenders forward, and then maybe there will be opportunities for passes behind. I don't know. I'm interested. I haven't watched a ton of Cincinnati. I watched a couple highlight packages. Yeah. The highlight package against Chicago, their goals were not what I would call dangerous goals. They were, Vander's first one was a deflection, and it's just, these were not like, oh my God, look how they just tore Chicago apart. They just happened to score. So hopefully they, come back down to earth a little bit in this one, and Sporting is able to pull away. And I mean, their results have been great. They won 4 in a row. So
but they've played, some questionable
they have
opponents.
And a lot of their big attacking performances and good defensive performances have been against trash teams. Like they had a really good defensive performance against the Revs. And
luckily, our team isn't trash. So,
we're not a trash offensive team. I mean, at least in the last 3 games, so much of this stuff, it's hard because even now, Sporting's XG in the table, of MLS is, right at the top of the bottom third as far as XG. But they've created 40% of that in the last 3 games.
Yeah, it's wild.
So it's it's going to take a while to drag up the stuff from the beginning of the season to where you actually believe that they're good.
I will say I was looking over the the FB Ref stats today, and I did notice that that Manu is in the top 10 in through balls, and I never ever thought I would see a Sporting Kansas City player anywhere near that. So I mean, that just kind of warmed my heart a little bit.
He's in the top 10 in through balls. He's in the top 30 in the league in shot creating actions, and the second in the league in goal creating actions.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But Joe Lowry's not sure about him, so it's it is what it is. Sorry, Joe, I had to do it to you. And on that note,
nobody's perfect, Drew.
Yeah, exactly. and on that note, I'm Drew He's Cody. We'll talk to y'all next week.
Go Sporting.